Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about holiday reads that I've already read. Were they a hit or a miss? Books that I read so you don't have to. I don't know if you're anything like me, but at this point of the year I'm reading pretty much just holiday reads. And I'd like to know what's worth reading and what's not. So if you haven't read any of these, I hope they're helpful to you. The first one that I'm actually going to start with is more of a short story, not a book, and it's Smee by A.M. Burrage. And I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that. But if you're unaware of what the tradition is, before long ago, in the long past, as it were, it was tradition that you said a ghost story on Christmas Eve, which is why we have stories like The Christmas Carol. And this one is set at Christmas. It's about a gentleman talking about his ghostly experience that he had, and he tells a story on Christmas, or Christmas Eve rather. And the story is, he goes to this estate, and they play hide and seek. The idea is actually hide and seek. The game is called Smee. I understand it like sardines. The idea, one person goes to hide and everyone looks for that person, and once you find Smee, you hang out with that person, you wait until other people join you, and the last person to join the group, they're the one that lost the game. I've played it, but the game was called Sardines. And this main character, I don't quite remember what his name was, and of course I didn't write it down. He finds someone and he waits with that person, but that person doesn't really talk to him, and then he thinks it's very weird. And towards the end of the night, people finally find him like, dude, we've been waiting for you for ages. Why haven't you joined us? And he goes, what are you talking about? I've been with Smee. And he turns around and that person's gone. Turned out, the last time that they played this game, someone had died, and that was actually the ghost from that last game. And everyone was upset with him. They're like, no, we told you that story in good faith. You're teasing us at this point. I really enjoyed listening to this. I think with stories like this, it should be listened to as an audiobook rather than just being read, especially what the original intention was, like telling a story on Christmas Eve. And I really enjoyed this. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. I would have to say it was definitely a hit. It was very spooky and definitely gave the vibe that I was looking for. You know, some Christmassy creepy factor. The next book on my list is one that I didn't love. I would have to say this was a miss. It was The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. I liked the idea. The idea is actually about these two girls. They're women, not girls. Sorry. They're twins. One stayed at home to run the family bakery, and the other one's a Hollywood hotshot working in this bakery competition. And the one that's the Hollywood hotshot hits her head, and she loses her sense of smell and taste. But she doesn't want to stop doing the baking competition because she's hosting it, and she's hosting it with this jerk. And after the competition, they're also kind of in their own little competition, even though they're not in the game itself. At the end of this, one of them will be hired to do a different baking show, and she really wants that job, and so she can't just quit even though the doctor has said, hey, you should really rest and it will eventually come back, but you need to rest. She goes, no, I'm not resting. She asks her twin to switch places with her. Her twin back home is running the family bakery. Her parents are on a very much needed vacation, but at this time of year, they provide all the baked goods for this big Christmas event, so she can't let people down. And so she agrees reluctantly to do the switch, and her other sister is now responsible for making sure things go without a hitch. So they're living with each other's lives without anybody knowing, and while they're living as each other, they start falling for the current guy in their lives. Overall, it was cute. I just wasn't super invested in these characters. And in the end, I rated this 2 out of 5. It did what it needed to do. I wanted something Christmassy, but it was, if you're going to read it, I would have to say proceed with caution. This next one is called 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elson. I love this book. I know I'm probably spoiling things already by saying how much I loved it and it was an absolute hit. But yes, it is. This is one for sure that you shouldn't miss. Sophie's our main character. She was looking forward to spending Christmas with her boyfriend since her parents was going to be out of town with her sister because her sister's currently pregnant, so her parents go and see her. So she was looking forward to spending a nice, quiet Christmas with her boyfriend, but her boyfriend breaks up with her. Devastated, she goes to her grandparents, and the big family is already there, and they all find out that, she's really sad about this breakup, and the grandmother goes, it'd be great. Let's just all set you up on 10 blind dates. So leading up from Christmas to New Year's, a different family member sets her up on a blind date. Some of them were great. Like, this aunt really sets her up with somebody that could have been a great catch. However, some of them were just disastrous. There's a set of twins that they have some real beef with Sophie. And so they set her up with, one, a terrible date, but two, the date was like a drive-in dirty movie. So already it was a no-go. And of course, while all of this is happening, she's posting on social media. Her ex-boyfriend wants to get back together because he's, you know, jealous and missing her. But during all of this, she gets closer to a family friend. And so now she has to decide whether or not she wants her ex-boyfriend back. I think this was fun. I think this was outrageous. And definitely should be on your list of books to read. Granted, there was so many characters that it got a little overwhelming. And the characters were super shallow and they're just two-dimensional and you don't really get to know them. But overall, this was fun. The next book on my list is The Latke Who Couldn't Stop Screaming by Lemony Snicket. This was actually like a small children's book. And it's about how this Latke gets boiled, starts to scream, because as you can imagine, getting boiled isn't a fun experience, and starts running through the village. And as the Latke is running through the village, the Latke meets different aspects of Christmas. Like at one point, the Latke meets a candy cane, for example. And the candy cane says, well, I don't like this about you. Was it smell? I don't quite remember. But the Latke then says, well, my smell reminds me or is relevant to this part of Hanukkah. And so it's very funny because the idea of the Latke is just screaming nonstop. But it was really informative. Because as you can imagine, I don't know anything about the Jewish faith or Hanukkah. And so I found this to be pretty informative in this like really small children's book. It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I rated this a full 5 stars. Definitely one that was a hit and shouldn't be missed. And this last one, I think I'm going to end on one that should be a miss. I didn't really enjoy this. I think this is actually one of my lowest rated books. I rated this 1.5 stars, and you're like, well, what is it at this point? It's In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I liked the idea. It was very Hallmarky, but it just didn't follow through. Basically, our main character, what's her name? Malin. Malin goes home for the holidays at this family cabin, and it ended up being such a disaster. Like, the guy that she has a thing for, I forget, either they sleep together and it blows up in their faces, or she tries to make a move and it blows up in her face. Either way, it blows up in her face. And of course, after, like, things just kept going wrong, and at the end of this vacation, like, the parents then tells everyone at the cabin, like, oh, we have such bad news, we have to sell the cabin. So devastated, she leaves, and as she's leaving, she slips on some ice and hits her head. She comes to, and the holiday has restarted. So now she has to relive Christmas, like one of the worst Christmases of her life, and she now has to do it in a way to try to make it less sucky, like less terrible. So I loved that it was basically Hallmark in a book. Loved the idea, but everything else was I didn't like at all. I didn't really care for the characters, what happened in the plot. A lot of it I didn't care for either. The world building, just all of it, a lot of it just wasn't to my taste. So this is one for sure you can miss. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys. What would you recommend or not recommend as a holiday read? Definitely let me know down in the comments below. And if you don't really have anything offered, please leave an emoji so I know you were here today. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I guess it's ta-ta for now. Bye, guys.